process to be a pro? Like I see you putting out all your content.
Right.
You know, I had an experience one time where I sold a house. They came by, took some pictures on a cell phone, and that was nothing else. Nothing ever happened other than that. It took 6 months. I lost 10 grand. I had to write a check for 10 grand at closing and get rid of this house.
Really?
Yeah. So, you know, it was a bad experience for me.
Yeah.
So, but what's the process and how did you get into it and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. You say pro. That's funny. Because I've been in real estate for just over 16 years. Got into it in 2003, and for me, it was probably a little bit different than the typical process. It was different than typical of how somebody would just say, "Hey, I want to go into real estate." So I did the college thing at Coastal Carolina University. Sure. From the time I entered into Coastal, though, I knew what the outcome was going to be. I knew where the end goal was going. Right. So I actually got my real estate license as a sophomore in college. Wish I would have done more with it. That's a whole other story. But like looking back, I really could have capitalized on some things that I did not. For me, though, just logistics was important. So I needed to get the license to have it for a certain time period in South Carolina before I could be a broker and own my own company. Okay. So I needed to line that up with when I graduated college. And so that's kind of how that played out, so that as soon as I graduated in May of 2003, I opened the real estate company off of my dad's rental company. So my dad was doing like some short-term rentals. Okay. Just, you know, had a kind of a retirement because he retired. They moved down here in 99 too, and just was kind of doing some side stuff with vacation rentals and that kind of thing.
So you knew you wanted to be in the industry and had a plan to get there?
Right, right. College was kind of a means to an ends for me. I was a double major, marketing and management, and so I tried to take stuff that I thought would, you know, correlate with business in general. And real estate was kind of the outlet that was in front of me. Sure. That I was like, this makes sense. I'm good with this. I was literally just talking to Savannah the other day, my videographer, about that. Like the widget or the service, I wasn't really focused on. I knew I wanted to be in business. I knew I had some entrepreneurial tendencies. How that was going to manifest, it ended up being real estate. Yeah. And some other stuff now, but in the beginning, yeah.
Well, that was me. That's like I was telling you earlier about when I started my first kind of side hustle, mowing grass to pay rent for my mom. I knew all I ever wanted to do was own my own business or work for myself, and I didn't care what that was. You know, it was something I needed to enjoy. But for me, when I got into the radio business, I wasn't crazy about radios and video surveillance. It's not sexy. It's none of that kind of stuff. But it was business, and I learned a ton from my mentor, and it got me there, man. Yeah. And it fulfilled a dream, taught me a lot to where I can bring it into this, and I know how to run a hobby. Right. Like a business, as opposed to running a business like a hobby. Yeah. And, to decide how to grow it and that kind of stuff.
Right. So, I think, and real estate for me was, and I love it now. Like I really do actually love the experience of real estate. So like hearing you have a bad experience, like always hurts me whenever I hear somebody say that they had a bad realtor experience or a bad, buying or selling experience, even if they didn't use a realtor, is not fun for me and my psyche. Cause I'm just like, man, like it shouldn't be that hard. Right. It shouldn't be that hard of an experience. And it should be, and realtors should help facilitate it in such a manner that takes a lot of stress away from the buying and selling process, because it is a stressful process.
For me though, it was part of the process. Right. I didn't know, I'd never been through it before. Like when I bought my first house, that was 2004, 2005. Right. When I could remember I had a 6-month mortgage. Okay. I mean, back when it was just press hard, 3 copies, how much money do you make? No, really, how much money do you make kind of thing. And we were living in a duplex over in Florence, and there was some negative activities going on across the street. And I told my landlord, I was like, look, we're not going to stay here. I've never broken a lease. We're moving. He's like, you consider buying a house? And I'm like, yeah, but I've got some debt. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of this. Right. And like literally it was back in the Wild West days of like I left closing with a check. And really? Wow. I had a 6-month mortgage. It was nuts. Yeah. But I'd never been through the process before. And then when we sold it, I had never been through that process. So I learned from all of those. And I've also learned that you just don't pick somebody out of the phone book or the newspaper or internet. There's an interview. You just make sure it's a good fit no matter what it is. I mean, it's not an industry specific thing that I had. It was just, I didn't know. And
Right.
it was just a way for me to learn.
Yeah. And I think I do. I hear a lot of people that I mean, honestly have kind of similar stories, and especially pre-08 when it was stated income and ninja loans and just, it was crazy. Wild West is a great description.
It was nuts.
It was good because I was like my first like 5 years was in that realm, and I'm like, and I think like a lot of real estate agents at that point, it's like, oh, this is easy. Like this is, I don't have to do anything. Like I said, take a picture and put it out there, and it sold, the next day, and people flipping, and, buyers, you weren't worrying about, lending regulations and where they're going to get qualified and all that kind of thing. Like it was almost, I mean, it was too good to be true. And in my same vein of thinking, coming into it in 03 was, oh, this is just how it is.
Right.
I didn't know any better.
Right. And neither did I. But I knew what I was getting into. Mm-hmm. Right. So, I wasn't a victim of we sold our house. We were fine, all educational expense. But I knew what I was doing. Mm-hmm. I also met a man that bought a house that he couldn't afford to put furniture in. Right. Because it was, again, stated income or whatever back then. And you got to take responsibility for your own. Now, he knew what he was doing. Yeah. I knew what I was doing. It was it got me to where I needed to be, but I just learned from those experiences.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think most people could see kind of, like you said, the learning, or you knew what you were doing. Like you had to know. I think most individuals who are relatively, intelligent, just like this can't last forever, and how it's being done. And maybe there's a better way, or a better advice for if I'm going to buy a house. I don't want to be house poor. I don't want to be so a lot of my transition over the last 16 years is, like I said, helping people through the process and understanding what the real estate buying and selling process is for them as individuals. Right. If they have an investor mindset, what does that look like? What's smart? What's not smart? Ebbing and flowing, and really just switching the mentality in real estate. And I tell all my agents, and through content as well, like we need to be, we're a service provider, we're a guide, we need to be trusted, we need to show our expertise in such a way that benefits the client. If it's not the right buy for them, then don't push it. You got to really come alongside people, I think, in our industry, and really show your value through the fact that you care about what they're doing, and not just the transactional value of it.
To me, even in our business, and it was kind of a commodity, but there's no value in transactions whatsoever, right? You need a relationship. You want that long term. You want that referral, and no matter what you're in the experience business. I don't care what business it is. It's the experience business, and if you're putting out a poor experience, it's going to be a short-lived
It's going to be short. It's going to catch up with you for
It is.
sure.
It's just it's unsustainable.
Yeah.
You look at the Disneys and the Amazons of the world, and Uber. It's all experience.
Yep.
Yeah.
So. And that's a huge aspect of when over the last really in our area, probably longer in some other areas, but over the last 3 or 4 years, where we talk about building your brand as a real estate agent and as a real estate company, and what's your story and what experience are you providing for people, because it's going to catch up to you if you are living the other way. If if it's just purely transactional for you, if it's only sales, if that's what you think real estate is still, and there may have been decades where it was, but like what it is now and what's going to actually last after coming through a housing crash like that was very housing focused, and a reason for an economic collapse on a macro level. Like if real estate agents don't really understand that I have to build brand, this is an experience. This needs to be long haul. This is not a one-time client. I'm trying to be a realtor for life. They're just, like I said, it's going to be short-lived. Yeah. And that's my fear for a lot of agents is like, you don't understand. You got to build this out.
Yeah. Well, you see, during boom times, and then there's a flood because it's easy money. People think it's easy. It's not a lot of work. From the outside looking in, we're going to bring some cookies in, put some balloons up. That couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, I watch all the content that you put out daily, and it's unbelievable the amount of work you're doing just on that. Right. Then you've got a business to run on top of that. You've got to coach your agents. And
Right.
When did that transition rather kind of happen for you? When did you realize that content was very important? You wanted to put out content and build your own brand. When did that kind of start for you?
Really about 2016. I knew brand building, marketing, like that was my background, like from a traditional sense, and really trying to build whatever you want to call it, reputation, a company, a name, but really to build the brand has always been on the tip of my tongue. But the content aspect of this is how current culture, this is how you're going to build brand in the 21st century and moving into 2020 and moving ahead. What's going to sustain and who's going to win is through who's putting out the most valuable content consistently over the long haul. And in 2016, my thought process probably like I said, I don't think I changed. I just I need to do this. There's not a choice anymore.
Right.
A lot of realtors still think it's a choice even right now in 2019.
Oh yeah.
It's not a choice anymore. You have to build out your brand.
I think you're the exception.
Yeah.
I mean, just locally when you look at stuff, as much as I'm sure you and I can consume a lot of the same content, you look at the Vaynerchucks of the world and that kind of stuff. There's a lot of people that they think they understand it or they want to. They're not willing to put in the work.
Right.
It's a ton of work.
Yeah.
Like even this right here, I was telling somebody the other day, it's the editing's easy because it's just pick the camera you want it to be on or whatever.
Right.
But if we talk for 2 hours, then we've got to upload the video. Then you've got to watch it again, to make the cuts, to upload it, to do that, to promote it, to get 60, 70, 300 views, whatever it is. And it gets frustrating. But what I've learned and what I try to tell young people is your why has to be in line with why you're doing stuff, right? If it was for money, if you were just creating as much content as you were for money and the money doesn't come in, it's too easy to say, I'm just stopping.
Right.
But if the why is because you're building a brand and you want to educate people and you want to help others, and now the why never changes and it's not about money, so it doesn't matter. You just keep putting the content out.
Right.
And that's kind of where I'm at right now. Although I know the process and it gets frustrating because it's not growing as fast as you want it to.
Right.
It's not about money and it's not about speed. It's about finding good people to interview, to tell stories. And so as long as the why doesn't change, we'll keep doing this.
That's right. That's right. No, I love what you're doing. And I think, and like you said, on a local basis, there's so there could be more. There could be more people that really buy into having a well-defined why to build, whether you're building a brand or a company or whether you're just providing value. I think that like you, I mean, your amazing story and the people that you interview trying to just storytelling as a way to help and have an impact is huge. A lot of realtors, I have this conversation all the time, and it's it's funny, and I don't fault them for it because it makes sense in that mindset. But like a lot of the content that I put out, obviously, is not to help me sell a house. Right. Like the content I'm putting out is really, honestly, it's a recruiting and team building base, but it's actually transitioned even more than that to just helping realtors, like just having an impact, whether you work at my company or you work at another company or you live in Oregon, like the person that was on my live stream the other day. Like if I'm helping you and I'm giving you tactical advice or providing some kind of value, then I see it as a win because that's my why. Like my win is to provide value.
That's what I was about to say, because there's value for you, right? It's selfless, which is always fulfilling, but it's been very interesting since I found you online to just watch and look at your YouTube channel and the gobs and gobs of videos you've got and the content you're putting out. And I feel bad for people that start it and then stop. Yeah. Right. And I just think their why isn't lined up correctly with what they're doing. Yeah. How big, how many agents do you have in your agency?
I have 28 agents.
Wow.
Yeah. And we're licensed in South and North Carolina. So I have one, two, three, four. There's 5 of us that are licensed in North Carolina. I haven't really tried to grow that segment, but primarily Brunswick County, kind of work in that area. But like I said, in 2003, we opened up in North Myrtle Beach off the rental company. Since then, started with just me. It was just me. And in that time frame, I was selling. That was my job, was to sell. Right. And so kind of transitioning into that broker in charge, more managerial. And I still sell and I have my sphere, my buyers and sellers that are like with me that I consider, my people, that again, preaching that continuous relationship, that repeat buy or their investors or whatever. But then, as far as agents go, I have about 28 agents, and always trying to grow. And that's really, like I said, where the content strategy came out, is like, okay, if I can provide you value, no matter where you're at, then, probably the mentality shift for me is like, okay, well, if I'm next to him, I'm going to get more value. Or like if I'm at the company, like I'll get even more than what he's already given to me for free. So that's kind of what my mindset was.
Right.
And then, like I said, transitioned into, well, if I can just help as many realtors as I can,
Sure.
From my experience or just, from know-how, and I'm always still learning. I definitely don't claim to be, a guru on content or guru on real estate. Like, I think there's always room to learn. So
absolutely,
that's what I'm trying to do.
What's the process for a young person that would love to be in real estate? I mean, I have no idea. Like, if I wanted to come be an agent tomorrow, what does that look like? How do you find the right broker to work for? I mean, I'm assuming maybe it'd be like buying a house. You just start interviewing people, or
I think there's probably an interesting debate in that. So as far as like just the basics of obviously there's state licensing. Each state's different. So there's a certain number of hours of class time, or I think even in South Carolina, they just opened an online class that you can actually do to get your pre-license or your first year license. So, there's a certain number of class time hours and law and tests and everything that you have to pass before you can actually affiliate with a brokerage. I always encourage people to go ahead and start talking with brokerages, whether it's a franchise or whether it's an independent, small, large. Like, do some variation, talk with as many as you can, because I'm all about fit. And if you see my content, like, I'm all about, like, as an agent, you want to find the right fit, because every agent's different. Every company's a little different, and you want to find where you're going to be the most successful at. Like, are you really going to excel in this environment, in this culture?
And that's why I mentioned interview the agent, because it needs to be a good fit. It needs to be a good two-sided relationship, and not just, okay, please hire me, I need a job. And we should have the same goals. Our goals should be aligned to grow together. And
it's one of the only industries where you as like, if you were a licensed agent or getting your license, you're actually interviewing the companies. I mean, it's really reversed in that sense. So I know, like, some material I'll put out is like what to ask a broker, like what you should be asking when you meet with brokers, because you're really doing more of the interviewing as the agent to find if this is the best fit for you and your career. Everybody's independent contractors. It's all 1099. It's not, employee based or, salary based. So you want to find where you're going to be successful, because it's dependent on your success for you to make money and to make a living. I think if I'm talking with like young people too, the other thing I would just add to that in the real estate industries, and there's other industries like this in my opinion, but the self-awareness to understand that it isn't a 9-to-5 and it's not a salary job, that you have to understand the discipline and the work ethic that's needed, the patience, and just the grind, that it might take a little bit, but if you stay consistent with it, there's a lot of people that can succeed if you understand that that it's all on you. That you got to have some entrepreneurial tendencies in real estate. Well, it's just exactly, it's what it is.
But with that, I talk to young people, and like, I didn't realize until recently that the number one, if you go to a high school, the number one profession these young people want to be are YouTubers.
Right.
Number one.
No.
but I don't think they see the work that it takes.
Yeah.
I don't think they understand. My daughter is probably downstairs watching YouTube right now.
Right.
And she watches this group of 4 brothers, 13 million subscribers, and it's Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Porsches, G-Wagons, i8s, giant houses. And I think people get consumed with the material stuff they have, and they don't look at all the work put in. Or you get these YouTube stars that have a channel that they're not only is it, I mean, this is easy, but I mean, if they're writing scripts and they're acting stuff out and they're doing different that is a tremendous amount of work.
You're a movie studio at that point.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tremendous amount of work, but I worry that young people don't see the work. So they jump into it for the flashy, the cars, the this or that. And then, oh, this is real work. It's a real job, The 9-to-5. I was going to ask you, do you have agents that are on board and creating content, or have you seen, not necessarily just yours, but I mean, have you seen, because it's a lot of work. And again, if it's not paying and I need to be showing houses and I need to be emailing people and reaching out.
I think that mentality shift that is coming a little bit more slowly. Like I said, it's a little different in different areas, but is that content is not a side item. Like, it is part of your work. It needs to be it needs to be scheduled in my day. Like, I schedule my content, not saying I schedule like I have a strategy.
Right.
And that's what people don't implement enough into. I think realtor or any industry is understanding that content is your brand and marketing in today's culture. So that has to be prioritized like any other work, like any other appointment, like, cold calling or, prospecting or contacting your sphere or, emails or whatever it is. It's part of your marketing and branding. Content's in the mix of that. And that needs to be prioritized, needs to be strategized, and actually laid out that there's a plan for it. It's not just haphazard whenever I want to, post something.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. Let me just walk down and do a selfie video.
Yeah. And it's again, it's value add. You talk about like YouTube too. What's the value add in what you're trying to create? Like, what's the creative? And that goes back to your why. And there are so many people that just get to the end result and see what they have now after they put in how many years of work or how many videos of work and put in there. But just like that product is work, content's work, and it's probably not understood enough because they just see the end. They just see 10 years later.
I actually put a post up the other day, and I shared Vaynerchuk's last video and the first episode of Wine Library.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And it was horrendous.
Yep.
But it was,
he looks like he looked Taliban like.
Oh, it was like the lighting stuff, the camera
in the back.
But I mean, it was terrible. But that was like 12 years ago or something when he started to where he is now.
Yep.
People see him today. Like that video had less than 250,000 views on it.
Yep.
He could put a video out today and it would get 250,000 today.
Yep.
So, I mean, that just shows the growth and what he's doing. But that's what I think that's what people see is the end result and not all the years and years of work that these guys have put in. Rogan's the same way. You look at his early stuff to where he's at now. And that's the challenge for me is I want to find people to do it, but it's the only way I can get people to do it right now because there's no value, right? Is they have to understand my why and be on board with that and say, you know what, I'll give this kid a couple, 2 hours or whatever. Yeah. But I want to skip the process, but I know you can't skip the process.
Right. And
that's the frustrating thing. And fortunately, I'm self-aware enough to know that, and I've been around long enough and I know that process, but I could see where a young person could get discouraged with, look, I put in a ton of work. It's not growing fast enough. Yeah. I'm just going to stop.
And that's where you got to love the process a little bit. You have to actually like, the day in, day out stuff. Yeah. And that's not that you don't have bad days or there's some days where I'm just like, I don't want to film. I don't want to film or I don't want to do stories today. Like sometimes just tired of it. But, bad days are okay, but as far as but just the actual like I enjoy my day to day, like I enjoy my life. I enjoy me personally. I mean, I love real estate. I love I like producing content. I have a creative in me enough that I like to put stuff together, or create an Instagram post, or create a video montage, and every once in a while I'll edit. So, or back in the day before I had my actual good videographer, and now I do stuff myself, and but it was still I liked it. I still enjoyed it, even though I knew, editing a video at, 10, 11 o'clock at night and I just worked all day, was still something that I could enjoy doing because I enjoyed the process enough.
Yeah. I just wrote a blog not too long ago about don't work a job for money. There has to be an element. An element of the comp plan for me has to be happiness.
Yep.
You have to enjoy to just go work a job. And I've got family that have worked jobs for 30 years in a factory that they can't stand just to pay for a house to keep up with the Joneses and to buy a truck they can't afford. You know what I mean? It's just I don't get that. Yep. It's not important to me. For me, giving back's important. I've achieved one of my lifelong goals and dreams. So it's just a new chapter at this point, a new journey, and now it's really giving back and being selfless is a part of that for me.
Yeah, yeah. I think too many people get too focused on someday or I'll do this when, instead of really the now, and really understanding that that this not only this may be it, like this day, you never know, but don't put off happiness, don't put off enjoying what you're doing when you could have it right now.
Yeah, you can't. I had Jeff Benton was on here Sunday. His father ended up with Alzheimer's at 52 years old.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, I didn't even know that was possible.
Yeah, that seems really early.
At that young, yeah. I think he passed away at maybe 56. Mm-hmm. You know, we're not guaranteed tomorrow. And to postpone happiness for whatever reason. And we could all make sacrifices. And in that blog post, that's what I was talking about, is we could all make sacrifices. Yeah. To go find a job that we love, maybe making a little less money, but you love it. Mm-hmm. So I don't eat lunch out 5 days a week. You know, we could make those kind of sacrifices. And that's the kind of stuff I've been doing a lot of talking, a lot of soul searching with too, is talking to young people, talking to friends, talking to family about go be happy. That should be your number one goal is being happy and not materialistic things.
Right.
I saw a post the other day where somebody was talking about money can't buy happiness.
Right.
Now, when I had absolutely no money, I was like, yeah, let me try that. I'll prove you wrong. But so somebody responds to that post with, I have to have trips and fast cars to be happy. You don't know what happiness is then.
Right.
You enjoy fast cars.
Right.
But you don't need fast cars to be happy.
Right.
That's not true happiness in my opinion.
Yeah. You're redefining the word then at that point.
Yeah. To me, it's joy. Yeah. You enjoy it, but it can't be happiness.
Right.
In a materialistic, something that's going to be in a junkyard in 6 years. I mean, that just makes no sense.
Yeah. And I even think, I think just personally, and this is subjective my opinion, that even the word happy, because, and you know how our culture gets, and they'll take one word and one word will become a hype word, and then they'll change the definition and then get, or get all up in arms about it. And, you know, to a degree, it does kind of become subjective to each person. Because one word I really tried to push on myself, and it came out in content over the last couple of years, is contentment, which, because happy to me can trigger some, like, I gotta be up all the time. Right. I gotta have energy, like happy energy and be on. Whereas contentment for me and like my business and my life was what spoke to me a little bit more, because I was like, okay, you know, I might be having a bad day. I might be having a great day. But regardless, I'm content. I might be up, you know, the swings of real estate income, especially in our area, are huge swings. So it's like, you know, I got to be content in my career choice and not have it dependent on my cash flow or my bank account at that moment and that kind of stuff. So finding contentment where I can find joy and happiness and have perspective in any situation has always been a goal of mine. And
it makes sense.
You know, just where I'm at, both faith and business wise, it's just like, if I can find contentment, like that's a good goal for me.
Yeah.
And it keeps me from feeling like if I'm not jumping for joy, I'm okay. Like, it doesn't mean I'm not in a good place.
Yeah, sure. You mentioned the swings. How do you coach your young or new agents coming into the industry about the swings of the income swings? Right. Because, I mean, I could see where somebody could come out, hit something out of the ballpark immediately, think this is the way it is, then jump into a lull. How do you coach kids or young people on that?
Yeah, and especially it seems to be younger demographic is you know, if you do your first, you know, 2 sales, don't go buy a Mercedes. Like you have to, there has to be budget, there has to be planning, there's still strategy, I would just mention I have a very creative side, but I have a very analytical side as well, which keeps me kind of grounded, that I try to tell people, okay, in real estate, like any other kind of commission income job, you do have to plan. You got to be a little bit better, diligent. And if you're not, it's okay. Maybe your spouse or maybe your friend, somebody needs to plan. Yeah, somebody kind of has to help you a little bit so that you can, you know, kind of budget this out. I'm very forthright with agents about, you know, when our market, you can put it on a graph for the last 20 years and you can see our market changes as far as fluctuation in sales, the ups and downs of what months are the highest, what months are historically the lowest. And you need to plan out for those time frames and you know, be able to take a commission check and in your head have it percentaged out. Where does this go? What, you know, what's savings, what's, you know, fund money, what's, you know, living expenses, all those kind of things. And that is easy to say and hard for many to do.
I'm sure it would.
And especially when you go from, and that's even, you know, agents that were killing it 6, 7, 8, and then suddenly, you know, 08 happens at the end, and now 9, 10, and it starts trickling the other way. What do I do? But because I totally believe we're on not a housing crash cycle, but we're on a macro market cycle right now. We're heading towards, we're going to have a slowdown. It's just been too good for too long.
Yeah.
It's going to happen when, I don't know, but there's a lot of preach going on right now with agents. It's like, you save money. You can make money in good market, bad market. That doesn't matter, but you need to prepare and just understand those kind of cycles for you and your clients. Help them out too.
Yeah, they're definitely going to have to be able to weather whatever's coming. Or because we saw that too in 2008, where I was a skilled tradesman, whether I was a carpenter, plumber, HVAC.
Right.
The crash happens, and now I'm just looking for a job.
Yeah.
And I was always nervous to hire them because I knew that as soon as the market come back, you're going to lose them.
Yeah.
They're gone. They're going right back to what they love and what they've always done. But yeah, I don't know. I'll never forget 2008. That whole time, man, it was crazy.
It was weird. And for me, it was strange. 2008 was a transition for me into more of that broker in charge managerial role versus my sales role. And I actually ended up hiring some agents that were coming out of companies that were either failing or had bad models, bad structure for the crash. Like they were dependent on the type of market that it was, and they were not looking ahead on how their commission structures and how their company or organization was if something bad happened.
Right.
So that was it was an interesting growth year for me as a person and as a company through 2008, 2009, even in the crash, because I actually acquired some agents that came out of companies that weren't really prepared. And not that I was, but I wasn't prepared for a crash, but I was prepared for, any kind of downturn.
Well, it goes back to what we were just talking about, right? Is you got to plan for it. You know it's going to come. It's secular, so it makes sense.
So it was an interesting time in that 2008. I just had I do a monthly event called Shift, this year I started it last year as just kind of another content piece, but try to invite some people from either the industry outside. It doesn't even have to be in real estate related. And last year we kind of did like speakers, and then this year we did more. I'm trying to do like a panel style, so like have 2 or 3 people up there and just kind of do some Q&A almost. So I just had 2 guys, one in real estate, one in the mortgage realm, and we were kind of rehashing, what 2008, 2009 looked like, and if the market turns down, what are we doing? What do we learn? And what are we doing differently now for the next one that maybe we didn't think about in the first one. Right. So that was interesting perspective, especially from those 2 industries and how that looks and what we should be doing as agents or mortgage or anybody that's in that kind of related industry that has a commission basis to it.
Right. And now we, folks our age, have the lessons that we lived through.
Yep.
To learn from, as opposed to hearing stories or, back in the 80s when interest rates went through the roof and that kind of stuff. We've actually lived through it. So it better helps you prepare. And
then that speaks to you talking about with that, so many of these kids the last 10 years have been so good. So, I mean, if you're getting ready to graduate high school and you've only known that since 8 years old, that this is, what the economy looks like, this is what the U.S. market looks like, that's scary because you haven't faced something like that.
Well, that kind of speaks to something I've been ranting about lately also. Is I follow all this stuff on Instagram, and it's business stuff, it's entrepreneur, it's success, and we put such a focus on millionaire this, millionaire that. And I think it's unrealistic for young people. I don't think they realize how much $1 million is.
Yes.
$1 million is a boatload of money.
Yes.
And I feel like people are tying their self-worth to becoming a millionaire.
Yes.
And I'm not patient enough to wait till I'm 50 to have $1 million in the bank. I'm 18, and if I don't do it by the time I'm 23, I'm a failure.
Yes.
It's driving me crazy because it's not that it's unachievable. It's absolutely achievable.
Right.
It's very difficult. It takes a lot of work. It's not an 8 to 5. And people do a good job. You're not going out partying on Friday nights to get there. It has to be 100% commitment.
Yeah.
But I worry about young people that aren't going. They don't have that commitment in them. They don't have that spirit. They think they do, and they're tying their self-worth to some very, very difficult goal.
I miss the days of when I grew up in the late 80s and early 90s of the only way to become a millionaire was to become a pro sports. player, and I knew very quickly whether I was going to achieve that
Right.
or not in high school and that kind of stuff, and still had dreams of that. But like you said, now because of the digital age and social media and being so blasted with stuff all the time in front of your face that you think it's just the norm. Like $1 million, I hear my 15-year-old say it, like just make $1 million. Like that's just like that's a given.
Right.
Is just ridiculous to me, and especially when I think it's still $427,000 is the top 1% and up.
Exactly.
The 1% and up is at 427,000.
Exactly.
There's so many that don't realize. I had this conversation with a colleague, Kevin Hoover, who is like, people don't realize like 80 grand a year is comfortable. Like you can do a lot with that if you do it right. Yeah. So that's not preached. You don't see posts about that.
Well, and that's, I wish it was. I wish people knew that they could go become a lineman for Santee Cooper and make plenty of money and be content and have a nice lifestyle.
Right.
But it's millionaire, and it's so and I've seen some people online changing kind of their tune about that stuff, but it's I'm worried about it. I'm worried about young people just consuming this all day, and again, time or even I had this conversation the other day with Instagram models and females tying their self-worth to some airbrushed, unachievable 7-layer of filters picture on Instagram. When it shouldn't be your why or your self-worth.
And all the and that like you said, it's been intensified just through social media a little bit of what's accessible and what's in your face more of the day instead of just a magazine or TV commercial. Now it's like 24/7 of scroll. So, I mean, really, the to preach to kids, and I have 2 kids. It's like that's still like not real world necessarily that you need to be trying to achieve with that.
No, we've got an opportunity that we've never had in the past, right? With guys that could go or anybody that could go make a living producing content or traveling and getting sponsorships. That absolutely can happen. I remember 10 years ago, before vlogging really took off and all this kind of stuff, my wife and I are in Gatlinburg. We hadn't had our daughter yet. We're on a dirt road somewhere. I don't even know. I remember being on this dirt road, and I said, you know what I think a cool concept would be? If you could get a corporation, call it Pepsi, to sponsor your life, and you drive around in video.
Yeah.
Like when it's time to teach my daughter about Gettysburg, I want to take her to Gettysburg.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's such a cool concept. I had it backwards.
Yeah.
You had to just start it, get the audience, and
the attention.
Then it would have come.
Yeah.
And that's what's happened. 10 years later, we've got people that are traveling all over the place and living with their families and really living lifestyles that are unbelievable to me, that I'm kind of envious of.
Right.
That I'm happy they took that leap and went and did it, but we never had those opportunities. 15 years ago. That stuff didn't exist, so you could definitely achieve it. But this millionaire, I think is ridiculous.
Yeah, I think there's, like you said, I think it's just really, really kind of maturing of attitude that happens. I think after high school and early 20s, that you really got to understand that a lot of those people, that a lot of YouTubers or even some Instagram influencers or that kind of lifestyle, but they really love it. Like if you're just doing it for the paycheck, it goes back to what that is.
Absolutely.
Then you really got to love doing that. You got to love the exposure and are comfortable and like what you're what you're trying to put out there, and you got to have a bigger why. I mean, it all comes full circle with that.
I think so.
Yeah, it all does. And but in the real estate industry, I think that same way with the millionaire is the same mentality. I think a lot of kids have, where worrying that you need thousands of likes, that you need millions of subscribers, you need all that to actually be giving something of worth. They're valuing engagement as well. Yeah. Not only the dollar figures, but just engagement and attention as, well, then my stuff may not be valuable. Now, it may not be good. It might, as far as the creative and the look and the whole attention, but you might have a message that needs to get out there. And if it is a good message, if it's a valuable message, and even if it's 2 people or 5 people or 50 or 100 people that consume it, if it's the right message, I think it'll continue to get bigger. But if you even just impact one, like I'm okay with telling realtors if they impact one person, then that's awesome.
That's kind of my goal, you know, and I talk about it a lot. I was telling a story at Socastee High School, and this one girl asked me, she's like, I want to be in makeup. The story I was telling about somebody I'd offered to help him to become a makeup artist. After the conversation comes, she says, Mr. Johnson, I'd like to be in makeup. Can you help me? I said, here's what I'm doing. I'm going to go get a massage. They do makeup, hair. I'll ask if you can intern shadow or something like that. I do that. It goes through a couple people. I get the approval, send it back through the guidance counselor. I get a card from this young lady. I don't remember exactly what it said, but it was like, you'll never know how much you affected my life. Thank you so much for sharing.
Right.
I'm like,
that's awesome.
I'm like, all I did was ask one person, one question, and that was it. But maybe it was more than anybody had ever done for her before. And when I get that stuff, I almost feel like I don't deserve it because I felt like I did the minimum.
Right.
But that's the goal, man, is to just help one person to see things differently, to push them one step closer to achieving their dreams.
Yeah. And like I said, and I'll pull that full circle back to, if you're certain careers, and probably more than people realize, but I know real estate's one of them, is if you have that mentality, if you have that I can, I'm not just selling, I'm not transactional based, like I'm actually helping. I mean, and I've had it happen to me where they're like, oh my gosh, I just, process was awesome. We never thought we'd get here. We never thought we'd own this kind of home. We never thought our family would have this kind of space. Like whatever the story is behind that is worth more than any commission, more than any income, is just, being able to help, families, and just in my profession, being able to help families, be able to help investors make a wise decision. Even it can even be as analytical as that. It's like, that was a good investment. When somebody comes back to me and say, hey, thank you, because that was a good buy, 3 years ago. That's so much more impactful to me than whatever the check I made on it or whatever, because when I know I've gained a client, I've made an impact, but I've gained a client that now is, I'm building my business long term, and I actually have relationship with somebody that trusts me and trusts what I do, reinforces me to say, I made the right career move.
and they trust you enough to refer you to friends and family.
Oh yeah, that's a whole other circle with that.
Right. Well, that's
a great compliment.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, great. That is in the exact same as when somebody shares a piece of content I put out. I'm like, that's a great compliment. That's awesome.
It is. And do you go in and whenever somebody shares something, thank you for sharing it? Do you communicate with folks like that?
I try. I'm probably bad at it. I actually just I will be very forthright. I was really bad at commenting back on comments over the last year, 2017, 2018. I have gotten. And at the end of 2018, I don't know if I watched something or someone said something. It might have been Gary Vee said something. I was like, I don't even, even if it's like a silly, high five comment or something, like I need to go back and respond, because someone took at least an effort to do something, and yeah, I think that's it is tough, because my mind's on the distribution so much. I'm not even a great consumer of content. It's hard for me to watch videos, listen to podcasts and that kind of thing. I'm usually more like, okay, how can I put more value out? How do I create? So I'm kind of a bad consumer. So some people will talk about, did you see that video by so-and-so or something? I'm like, yeah. Or do you listen to this podcast? What's your top 10 podcasts? I got 5 on my phone.
Well, exactly. What I've learned through the analytics and stuff is, we've been talking for 45, 50 minutes, 5 minutes. That's the watch. Mm-hmm. So now what I've got to do is at some point take 5-minute sections of these videos out and re-upload them with 5-minute lessons in it. And I haven't gotten around to that yet. It's just, it's time. And when you're working till midnight so you work your 9 to 5, then you come home, you shoot with somebody, you start downloading, you start editing. And at midnight, then you've got somebody else coming in the next day. It's just, there's not time for chopping stuff up.
How are you fitting this into your just day-to-day schedule too with NBC?
So I do most of them of evenings after work. If somebody needs to come in the middle of the day, then
like me.
Well, it's just no. Well, actually, I had a something else. I was planning on working from home today. Anyways,
okay, cool.
And I had a conference call this morning, that kind of stuff. But what I'll do is today, I'll put in an extra couple hours tonight on the 9 to 5 business and just do that. The sacrifice is family. My daughter. So she comes home from school, try to spend time with her. Mm-hmm. try to do a podcast. Then after she goes to bed, that's when I work on editing, and you work till midnight, 1 o'clock, and then you turn it off and then start over again the next day. But it goes back to the why. It's too much work if you were doing it for some other reason.
Right.
If it wasn't a good reason for you, it'd be like, I'm not staying up to 1 o'clock every night doing this stuff for zero.
Yeah.
But so.
I think there's this is kind of related, but just sparked what you were saying. Just sparked in my head. I really do think there's a missed opportunity, and I see it with some agents out there. But like that 18 to 25-year-old age range, I think could really kill it in real estate in today's culture. When you aren't trying to balance the family thing, and when you can live at a level that's not like here. Yeah. I mean, there's so much opportunity in this type of business, this type of career. If you like it, if you have a passion, if you have a drive, that you can out hustle almost from people my age and up in this industry. And not only that, but reach the buyer demographic and the demographics that are currently there, and market in such a manner and culture where the attention is as well on the listing side. So I'm always amazed and always look on the lookout, and it's harder in this area a little bit for that 18 to 25, because I think they could just smash into the real estate industry.
But as you talk about that, I think about it comes down to lifestyle. Mm-hmm. If the lifestyle is true hustle, and I'll work all day showing properties at night, I'm building a brand and creating content. Yep. That person could be successful. The person that wants to come out and just look successful, drive a Mercedes and go spend all night at the bar, and a wantrepreneur, it's just not going to happen. They've got to be willing to put in that work. But I agree with you that in no matter what, in kind of any kind of sales realm, I think that person, if they really wanted it and were willing to put in the work, and not looking at how much money they were making right then to perfect their craft, to grow their base, their book of business, it's a tremendous opportunity.
It's patience. It's patience in the end. I mean, putting your head down and working through the 20s and just really understanding what you could build if you're willing to wait, if you're willing to understand that a 10, 15 year down the road is going to...
Which goes back to my post about millionaire this, millionaire that is wait, you're 20 and you're going 20 years, you're 40, you're still, I mean, you've got all the time in the world in front of you. Yeah. You can be more than patient, but I think that's the big thing is we're not patient. Some people are, but I think that's very hard to get to. Like I was talking about this, even knowing the process of doing this, and if you want to create something, you've got to be patient and not get frustrated and not quit.
Yeah. I'm always looking to and she probably hears me say this all the time, but like my thought is like, oh my gosh, like 5 years from now. And like I haven't even started. Like I haven't really started, because I really believe I'm always believing the next 5 years is crazy, or at that point. And then when I get to that point, I'm gonna be like, well, yeah, wait till I'm here and stuff. Yeah. So it's just I believe so much in that balance between ambition and moving forward, and understanding to be patient of what's going here, and grinding now to get there, but being content in the moment. It's a weird balance. It's a weird balance for me to content now, but I know that I'm going to be here next, at that point.
I shared with my wife a Twitter post this morning, and the content in it was 3 years ago, I was doing a speaking engagement to 40 people. I didn't even have a microphone. The host says, just speak up and you'll be fine. And they just did the Cardone 10X conference to 35,000 people 3 years later.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, that kind of growth right there. And it's just, and you listen to any of those guys, Cardone or whatever, they're talking about all the free work they've done and just honing their craft.
Yep.
And that's where the patience comes in. I see 5 years down the road. I see that I can do this 5 years. And even when I was, owner of Myrtle Beach Commons running that business, I would look at business as in, I can see as far down the road as I have money in the bank, right? So the concept there was, if I can't make payroll next week, I can't worry about 5 years down the road. If I've got enough money in the bank that nothing's going to sidetrack me for the next year, I can plan a year down the road and 5 years down the road. And that's where I'm at with this right now with my wife is, I could go do this full time with no income coming in for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you got to start making money in those next couple years. So we're going to just keep doing it like this. Weekends, if I start traveling, I'll do weekend traveling things, kind of get a feel for it. And I've got some other strategies. And like I mentioned earlier, I've got a YouTube consultant I'm going to work with, but just try to grow it. But I'm excited about 5 years down the road and 10 years down the road. And I feel bad for people that talk about how their best days were in high school. You know what I mean?
My best days were not in high school. That's for
so
sure.
Weird to me, like this Uncle Rico attitude of back at could have went to state or whatever. I'm like, dude, I'm always looking forward.
Right.
As long as my health is good,
right.
I think your best days are always in front of you.
Yep.
Watching your children grow, watching your business grow.
Yep.
Watching your circle of influence grow. I think those are the real fun times, man. I don't want to go backwards.
No, I'm in total agreement with that. I definitely would not. I can't even sit and I don't even like reminiscing. I can't look through pictures. My wife gets mad at me all the time. I can't look through pictures of the past. Like I'm like that's just not efficient to me. One, and I was there, but I'm here now and I want to go here. So it's hard for me, and she gets mad at me some. But I don't. I mean, I have a pretty good memory, and I remember back in the day and that kind of stuff. But it's just not a thing where I sit and I'm like taking like that was so good or that kind of stuff because I'm more in the now and where am I trying to go? Like where am I trying to push forward? So I would totally agree with that.
Yeah, that's my goal, man. Just moving forward and growing and getting to meet people. This is what's cool. I mean, I never met you, never spoke to you before, and just sat down talking like old buddies, man. That's what I really, really enjoy, and got to figure out a way to make this thing work and keep growing.
I love the concept, and that's that's probably something even I lack. So is kind of a little bit of the collaboration side, because I think you're doing that really well, and I think from what I was looking at episodes, like you had a very diverse,
it's been very
diverse of people and stuff, and I'm like that's really cool, because I think that's attention grabbing, and that's the space to be able to keep growing audience and growing a diversified audience that is going to pay attention to.
Some of it's come from referrals, and some of it's just like with you, I just cold called. I was like, man, hey, this is what I'm doing. I see your content. You'd be interested,
right?
But then there's some other folks that I've reached out to that do things in the community, like Jeff Benton and Pietrowski. Those guys are Ed's going to do it next week, I believe.
Nice.
But
that's awesome.
But then the guys that just got out of prison, I had one guy that just did 14 years for murder, and all he does now is tell young people that the streets and gangs they're not your friends. They're going to abandon you. And that's important for somebody. And I had a therapist on, so and that's what I'm looking for. Is just real story. It'd be cool to have a celebrity every once in a while,
right?
I think there's value in just everyday people telling everyday stories about what they're doing.
It goes back to the 1%. Like, kids, they don't have to realize that it's not like 1% is 1%, and it's really hard to get to 1%. And you can do it, but it's a lot of work to get there. There's so much in the 99 though that people miss out on, and that kind of thing that it's okay and it's good. It's really good to be. So
that's what we're going after, man.
This is but this is awesome. This is like only like my second or third podcast invite ever.
Yeah. Well, and thanks for doing it. I really appreciate
it. This is great, and these chairs rock. But it's definitely it's where we're moving towards, and I think that those first movers. I keep hitting the mic. I think those first movers in the last like 10 years. Are reaping benefits in those first, where you talk about some of those V's and that kind of stuff, that quick movement of audience attention. I think it's going to be a little bit longer for some of us that are like getting into it now, 2018, 2017, 2019. I think that any what would you call that? Any kind of market like that, attention, it expands as more people flood into the market and that kind of stuff. So the patience has to become a little bit longer. So for kids coming out of high school and college, they're going to have to realize that space expands a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is you have to be authentic. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to be the next Gary Vee. I'm not going to be the next Joe. I'm going to be myself.
Right.
And I'm going to go after a different audience. I'm going to try to bring on different guests and that kind of stuff. Right. But you have to be authentic. Somebody's not going to start copying Doug DeMuro videos and find the success he did. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, man.
Yeah. I find that in real estate all the time too. And just to circle it back into that, it's finding your fit, being who you are, building your business alongside a brokerage that culturally fits what you're looking for. And that's why there's so many different real estate companies. And probably my biggest pet peeve is trying to create a, kind of a robot agent, a box agent that all of them look the same.
Right.
I probably lean heavily towards the other extreme, where I want my agents to build their own brand and tell me what looks successful to you. What are you trying to achieve? Like where are you trying to go with your business? And I'll come alongside you.
Right.
I'll help resource you. I'll help get you where you want to go. I'm not just going to tell you, here's how you do it. Here's how you do it. Just do these 5 steps and every single day. And this is what you need to do to be a part of this real estate company. I'm really into the individuality of building your brand.
You're the head coach.
What you want to do. Right.
I mean, that's what it is. You're the coach, and you got to teach these folks how to do it and show them what works, what doesn't work, and find what works for them, right?
Like, because sometimes it won't work for me because of something, but it may work great for you.
Absolutely. Like I can do this all day long. What I cannot do is hold a camera out here and talk to it.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I have tried and tried. I cannot do it. It drives me nuts. I've walked through the office, talking about what we're doing, and I'm not comfortable with it.
Right.
This year I could do it forever. Stand on a stage doesn't bother me.
Right.
Talking directly into a camera, oh my gosh. Cut after let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's do it again.
I usually don't have that problem. Sometimes I will.
Yeah, I can't do it. So that wouldn't work for me,
right.
But I could create some other type of content.
Yeah.
And again, that's the job of the coach, right? Is to find where that fit is and what your folks can do.
What's your strengths?
That's right.
Can you double down on strengths, triple down on your strengths? I look at content in 3 arenas: video, audio, and written. So I think most people will lean towards one of those as being good at it, and can do the video. It's good on camera. Is good to face that kind of medium. Audio, some people really gravitate towards that talking and being able to speak and convey what their value through just audio and whatever. Which I think, by the way, not even to get off track, but like where audio, where voice, podcasting, all that's going, Alexa, smart devices, and that kind of stuff. Like you got to be on top of that,
right?
And then written. There's just some killer writers and blog and copywriters, and being able to take a video and create a blog behind it that just really is impactful and powerful in SEO and grabs a lot of attention. I think most people gravitate towards one of them and do really well at it. And then I think you kind of fill your weaknesses in with either team members or, tools and resources that help facilitate the others. Well,
and that's like, I was told, I've got a marketing team, and I was told you have to write blogs. I can barely read. I mean, to be able to write, I'm terrible at it. But I really got to where I enjoyed writing blogs. And then I started the podcasting, and I lost some interest in it. It was almost like writer's block. Like I would start and I'd get a paragraph and I would lose it. So now we're transcribing all of these into blogs to post, which will help with the SEO and all that. Definitely. And for me, though, what I'm trying to do is more of a brand than SEO, but you need the SEO as well. So it all comes full circle. But I know that what I do and what I don't do well, so I sub all that work out and I hire great people to do it. And so
it goes right back to self-awareness and really understanding where your strengths lie. So I believe in that.
Well, thank you so much for doing this, buddy.
Hey,
I really
this
appreciate it.
Has been awesome. Love the conversation. Love your setup.
Yeah, man.
This is
thank
fun.
you. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Michael.